Hello, this is Brett Wild. It's been a bit of a hiatus between the holidays work and upgrading my Mac to High Sierra, which caused an incompatibility between X-Plane and my graphics card. I've had to take some time off. But after upgrading this morning to 11.11 X-Plane, I found that things have stabilized and I'm able to fly again. So I haven't really had a chance to fly with the new Garmin G1000, which was released by Laminar Research in X-Plane 11.10. So we're going to try that today. I'm flying the default 172. There are two choices when you open up X-Plane. One is the traditional 172 without the G1000, and the other option is with the G1000. Might as well show you that. So looking at the flight configuration, you can see that you've got a Cessna Skyhawk with the G1000 and then one without. So we're going to take a short flight from a kind of hazy, foggy Santa Barbara, which is KSBA, or Kilo Sierra Bravo Alpha, down to Oxnard, which is just a short hop away, about an hour by car, actually. That is Kilo Oscar X-Ray Romeo. So got Sky Vector pulled up. You can see as the crow flies how we would get there, but we're going to try out the ILS approach into Oxnard and plan our own little route to get there. There is the Klang departure, which would get me there, but it's not nearly as exciting as planning my own. So here's Quang. Did I say Klang? Quang. And we'll head over to Fillmore, which is the initial approach fix for Oxnard's ILS 25, and you can see that here, IAF. So we will fly in that direction, and then as we get closer, we'll go ahead and select an approach for Oxnard. So let's see what waypoints we have besides the ones here on the map. As you know, X-Plane does have a nice new map feature, and you can pick out some of the more granular waypoints that don't show up on Sky Vector charts. So I've got Zicor, Ojai, and down to, let's see, if I zoom in a little bit more, I think there was an extra one. Yeah, Canyon. So we will plug those in and create our own little route. Of course, I'm going to be using X-Plane tools to build my .fms file. So let's start with Zicor. And tab, and you can see that it's created a waypoint here, and over to Ojai, and again another waypoint. So here's our initial approach fix at Fillmore, but we've got Canyon in between here. So we're a little bit closer. Let's just go ahead and put in Fillmore. And again, at this point, we will just select an approach in our Garmin. So I will make a nav log of this. select my waypoints and coordinates and copy that to my clipboard. Head over to X-Plane. I've put in a file name already. Paste in my waypoints. And let's see, source was SkyVector. I want the default .fms. Go ahead and convert that. And I'll save that to my FMS plans. That's in the output folder. So now when I climb in the airplane, I should be able to pull that up. So let's head over to the airplane, into the cockpit, and like all flights, start with our battery, avionics, and you see the new Garmin 1000. The screens pop open. They're really nicely designed and rendered, very crisp, easy to read. And since we've got it up here, let's explore a little bit. You can zoom in, get a nice airport map, so comes in handy for taxiing. But let's put in our flight plan. If there is a flight plan here, you can go over to the menu and then step your way down and it will clear it out. But we're going to pull up the .fms files that I have saved over time, and here is the Santa Barbara to Oxnard that we just saved. I'll enter that, and you can see that it's put in those waypoints, and that's about it. And you can see that it's put in our flight path. We'll be taking off to the west before we pick up Zycor and head on over to Oxnard. So pop that back in and let's get the engine started. The 172 is a very simple airplane to get started. It's not a complex airplane. In other words, there isn't a constant speed prop. The gear doesn't retract. And I would yell out the window clear. Magnetos both. And start. And we're ready to taxi. I'm going to dispense with all the ATC stuff for right now. Oops. Turn on some lights. And we can look at our map and see where we have to taxi. So I need to turn to the right and head down this taxiway to our, I think it's 27, and take off from there. I'm still getting some stuttering in my frame rates. I find that if I just keep things in the cockpit, things stay a lot more stable. Looks like we've got an aircraft up here. See how I get a slowdown. That's interesting. Well, the fog just got a little bit better. Yeah, it actually looks pretty clear right now. So a notch of flaps. And strobes. Landing lights. And cleared for takeoff. Well, one thing I should do before I get rolling here is let's set an altitude. $7,000 feet. Brakes off. I've had some problems with this airplane with the P factor. It tends to really pull and actually kind of flip the airplane around. Like I said, let's get it off the ground a little bit soon, but and I'm gonna trim the nose down a little bit. Oops. That's embarrassing. Thought I had full throttle there. So let's begin our turn. And we can begin our navigation now. You can see this is our flight path. We need to catch up to it in a minute. So I've clicked the CDI until we get the GPS indicated here. Now I can go ahead and click our autopilot. And it will begin following the GPS route. And here's our route that we're chasing. So you can see our RPM here. You get a lot of the engine instruments down the far left-hand side of the Garmin. You can also change your pitch, nose up, nose down, because if you use your trim or you pull back on your yoke or joystick, it's going to kill the AP. Flaps are up. And you can see that we're getting closer to our route here. And when this middle line lines up with the rest of it, we will be on course. We should see the airplane turn a little bit to the left and straighten out. Put these side by side. as we head on up to 7,000 feet, Pacific Ocean. All this was on fire a month ago, if you recall. And 7,000 feet, and we level off. And we'll take a short break while we cruise along here. As we get closer to our initial approach fix, I'll join you again. Well, our weather has gotten a little more interesting. Feels a bit, visibility isn't as great as it was back at Santa Barbara, but still tolerable. By the way, I'm using SkyMax Pro and real weather. So supposedly this is what's really happening in Southern California. Yeah, a little hazy. So after we pass Canyon, we'll go ahead and set ourselves up for an approach. So stand by for that. All right, coming up on Canyon. And after that, we'll make a choice of an approach. Otherwise, we would just go straight into Oxnard. So I'm going to click the procedure button. An arrival would be a star, a published star, which we are not going to use. We want an approach. Click enter, ILS 25, and then we select our transition. We're going to be using Fillmore. And we want to go ahead and activate it. So now you can see that it's added a bunch of waypoints and some altitudes here. We do have altitudes entered for the waypoints going into Oxnard. In fact, that is a bit of a distance, so why don't we begin our descent 5,000. So vertical speed, nose down. Again, if you just use trim or your yoke, you're going to disengage your autopilot. But if you use the nose up and down in combination with the vertical speed, you'll be fine. I'm sure there's a lot of subtleties that I'm missing. I have not experimented with flight level change. Aggressive here. We've got the ATIS dialed in here, so let's have a listen.
Oxnard information X-ray. 0 Zulu weather. Wind light and variable. Visibility 7. Sky conditions 200 scattered. Temperature 16. Dew point 14. Altimeter 3016.
3016 and the
departing runway.
Alright, altimeter set. And here goes our turn. Still descending. To Kudak. Now the next question is, what is our localizer frequency? 108.7, and it has put it in automatically, which is kind of nice. So we are now about 90 degrees to the runway. Sorry to be sorting all this out live, but this way you can learn from my errors. Let's not forget about our power here. And we should be coming up on that turn. So 3,200 feet for both Hoopla and Nelly. So next is our approach. Final approach fix is at Nelly. At that point we'll just flip over to our approach mode. Right now we're still on GPS navigation. Weather is still a little dicey. This is the well-known Conejo grade, which drops down from Thousand Oaks into Ventura area. I've actually driven it many times. So let's go to our approach mode. Notice it switched to localizer. And here's our guide slope coming down. So our localizer has been captured. Next we're looking for our guide slope to turn green. So we have engaged the guide slope and beginning our descent. Come back on the power. We're 9 miles out. It's interesting that some of the buttons don't show up until you actually pop it up. All of these here. So we are nicely lined up with our runway. Guide slope performing as planned. Thanks for coming along and exploring the G1000 with me. While we're descending here, you can see nearest airports by pulling that up. These are where you can set timers. And to start it, you would just click the enter button. This is where you set your transponder. There's our outer marker. So I'd put the gear down if I had a gear to put down. Alright, full flaps. Right, autopilot off. Sometimes that guide slope will put you a ways down the runway, as it probably should in really bad visibility. Pretty slow approach. Yeah, getting a little stuttering here. And we'll assume that ground control is going to let me taxi over to the terminal. I can just put up our flaps. Strobe off. And that's it for the default 172 with the Garmin 1000. I think it's a great addition, and it'll be interesting to see if some of the other manufacturers or developers like Coronado and Airbus get it installed in their aircraft as well. So thanks for joining me. Please let me know if you have any comments or questions.